another hit, man, took another hit. I'm about to lose my shit, man, about to lose my shit. Does she have a fucking wristband? Yeah, she needs that shit. Better get her out real quick, man, get her out real quick.
Are you the present or the future? Are you a drinker or a boozer? Are you a giver or a user? Are you a winner or a loser?
Yeah. And I said that I would never back down. And I said that I would never back down. And I said that I would never back down. I swore that I would never fucking back down. Yeah, her body's like a gift, man, body's like a gift. Cause she's looking hella fit, man, looking hella fit. And I can't always commit, man, can't always commit. Pull the trigger on this shit, man, trigger on this shit. Cause I feel I haven't lived, man, feel I haven't lived. Till I got nothing to miss, man, got nothing to miss.
Are you the present or the future? Are you a drinker or a boozer? Are you a giver or a user? Are you a winner or a loser?
Yeah. And I said that I would never back down. And I said that I would never back down. And I said that I would never back down. I swore that I would never fucking back down.
Yo, what's going on? Is this still loud? Hey. I love Neoflex, man. I love Neoflex. I love them. I love the band. I love the group. I love everything. Oh, this sounds terrible on here. How's this sound? The audio. What's going on? What is going on? Okay. News today. I was at work all day, so I don't know what's going on in the world. Hello. I posted a video this morning on the D'Souza Alex O'Connor debate about is the Bible true? This was humiliating for the Christian side, and I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic, and this was it was terrible. D'Souza set the whole Christian community back at least 30 years. Oh, that was bad. That was bad. And then afterwards, they're hanging out side by side. Like, did Alex just pay him to lose? Was that like a dive? It was so bad. Also, yes, I know my speakers are still having trouble when I'm using Adobe to edit, which is too bad because Adobe's doing a lot of AI stuff. And like I said, this might be the last month I have Adobe anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it matters because the video it affects the audio. All right, so we are continuing Islam Week. I don't know where we're at in the structure of things. Let's try and go at least an hour. If people come into the room and start talking, maybe we'll go a little bit longer. If it ends up just being me streaming this, I did get a good boost on the first night. This morning, I got my 1030 boost on the first video, but my second video still is down at no views. So I don't know if the algorithm's doing things differently or something. But I did get my hit, my 1030 hit on my first video from Tuesday. It was 300 views, which is actually pretty good. So I don't know if it's delaying when it's populating it into other people's feeds or what it's doing. Also, I am less than 100 hours of views away from full monetization. Please help a brother out. All right, Islam Week. Ain't it fun? Let's get to it. Undeniable evidence. Proof that the Quran is the word of God. Let's see if I'm convinced by the end of this. All right, let's rock and roll. 3, 2, 1, go.
You're about to learn the strongest evidence that the Quran is the direct word of God. For
Bring
that, you should watch until the very end.
Bring it. I can talk with that accent too.
No matter how amazing Ronaldo is at football,
Well, you lost me already. You went to soccer, so. A, I'm an American, so I don't care. And B, I don't really watch sports. I watch like tennis and gymnastics. I sometimes watch MMA. I like watching kickboxing when it's on. Australian rules rugby, for some reason, is interesting to me. Go figure that one out.
you will always have other amazing footballers like Messi. No matter how amazing Charles Dickens is at writing, you'll always have other amazing authors.
Wrong. I don't know anyone that's ever written anything better than Laini Taylor.
No matter how amazing some YouTubers are, you will always have other amazing YouTubers.
Lindy Page for life.
The point is that humans can always imitate humans. This is very important. Now focus with me for a second. Allah poses an incredibly powerful challenge to all humanity in the Quran, where He says, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا, that if you are in doubt of this Quran, then produce even a chapter like it. Basically, Allah is asking you to imitate just one chapter.
I have, and I'm not trying to be controversial. I've had a very long day, so I'm a little loose with my words today. But I mean this in all honesty. I've heard the Quran in Arabic. I've read at least 3 different translations in English. It is not the best written book in the world. It's actually one of the worst I've ever read. I'm sorry, guys. It's not a greatly written, well-written book. It's not beautiful poetry. I think the Bible, when sung in Aramaic, is beautiful. I think Sephardic, I don't know, it's kind of like a weird Spanish Hebrew mix. When the Bible is sung in that language, is beautiful. Also, the Talmud and a few other, I think the Psalms, just beautiful in Sephardic. Safari? I don't know. Let's see. My 5 greatest books ever written, ever read. Laini Taylor, The Daughter of Smoke and Book Trilogy. It's 3 books, but I'm counting it as one. Number 2. Well, it used to be the Gaelic Wars, but I kind of want to stay Stormfront. This guy. Let's see. What's another? Hamlet. I still think Hamlet is one of the greatest stories ever told. It is just amazing. I don't think all of Shakespeare's stuff is amazing, but I think Hamlet is amazing. The Raven, of course. The sonnets really aren't that. aren't as amazing as I used to think they are. You got Laini Taylor, Shakespeare. I love the Odyssey. Well, yeah, I love the Odyssey, but I wasn't really overwhelmed by the Iliad. Oh, I've done so much. I've done so much audiobooks too, and I can't. Like, I love the Witcher series, but I don't think it's the greatest books ever written. What's in my top 5? There's comic books that are in my top 5. In all honesty, like Lies, Sex, and Videotape from Wolverine, Weapon X. Oh, that's just a great comic book. Saga, at least the first 6 volumes. The first 5 volumes of Sunstone. Oh, amazing. I mean, I love Dracula. I love Sheridan Le Fou's Carmilla. Oh, what else? What else do I think is amazing? I read a lot, and there's very few amazing books, just to be very blunt about it. Wuthering Heights. My gosh. Wuthering Heights is completely amazing. It just blew my mind. I thought it was going to be terrible, and it was great. Just looking to see this. I mean, The Outsiders and Tex, you know. Yeah, so I would go Laini Taylor's The Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Hamlet's, Shakespeare's Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet, The Raven, Eleanor, Wuthering Heights, and Dracula and Sheridan Le Fou's Carmilla. That's my top 5, top 7 books of all time. Bible's not in there. Not even close. If we were going to just go with like single books of the Bible, Revelation is like in the top 10 books of all time. Let me see. I used to love Psalms and Proverbs, but I don't think they're in my top 10 either. The first Dune by itself, if you don't read any of the rest of the series, is amazing. The first 2 books kind of go together and you need them. But the series itself just kind of trails down and it pulls it down just a little bit. So Dune's not in there. But yeah, Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Sheridan Le Fou's Carmilla, Wuthering Heights, Hamlet, Laini Taylor's Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. I'm telling you, those are the best books ever written of all time. I've never read anything that comes close to it. The only other books I can compete or compare are comic books, and those are anthology series. The Weapon X, Wolverine Weapon X, Saga, the first few. Again, it drops off after a while, so that's the problem with Saga. Sunstone stayed great all the way through. So Sunstone's great, but it's a limited series. Dawn, Lucifer's Halo. I think Dawn, the first one, 3 tiers, is better than the second one, but still amazing. Yeah. I mean, I loved reading Wolverine, but I don't think it's the greatest comic book series of all time, but it's my favorite comic book series. I understand there's faults in it, but the Quran's not up there. The Bible's not up there. The Odyssey used to be up there, but it's probably not anymore. It's probably not in the top. It's probably like maybe number 10. The Bhagavad Gita, even the Eddas, which I love the Eddas, but they were boring at some point. All this ancient religious text that I love, most of it's boring. Most of it is boring. And the religious texts, unless you have a reason to read them, they're very dry. Like I said, the Book of Revelation's in my top 10 as well. So, but not the whole Bible, just the Book of Revelation. Yeah, but Quran's not up there, man. Doesn't compare. Doesn't compete.
And considering the shortest chapter in the Quran is just 10 words long, and the fact that humans can always imitate humans, this shouldn't be too hard, right? That's literally like Ronaldo challenging humanity to imitate just one of his goals that he scored throughout his entire career. It says, other than Allah, if what you say is the truth. In other words, not only is Allah basically telling you you can get all the help that you like, He's also telling you to call upon your own witnesses, your own scholars that don't even have to be a Muslim, and get them to testify that what you've produced is like the Quran. Now here's the...
I already gave you 7. I gave you 7 books that are better than the Quran. And I gave you 5 graphic novel series that are better than the Quran. Yeah.
Punchline. Then Allah says, فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا. And if you are not able to do so, and you will never be able to do so.
Tell you what, read Laini Taylor's Daughter Smoking Bone trilogy. It has angels. It has demons. Doesn't really have gods and goddesses, but that's okay. It has art. It has women being catty. It has goth chicks. It has wrestling terminology. Go read the Daughter and Smoking Bone trilogy. And tell me if it's better than the Quran. I'm putting it out there. Daughter of Smoking Bone trilogy, better than the Quran, better than the Bible, better than the Book of Mormon. Do I think it's better than the Iliad? Yes. Better than the Aeneid? Yes. Better than the Odyssey? No. Better than the Enuma Elish? Yes. Better than... Is it better than King Arthur? I think it is. I think it's better than Le Morte d'Arthur. Maybe not better than the movie, but, better than the book. Yeah. Yeah.
In other words, Allah has sealed the challenge from the very beginning. And guess what? More than 1,400 years have passed, and the Quran remains at the pinnacle of the Arabic language on a level of its own. And not only that, there's not a single historical account of a reputable source saying that someone has successfully managed to imitate the Quran. So to summarize, humans can always imitate humans. And because the Quran cannot be imitated, it is therefore...
Chaucer, which I don't enjoy, is a poem. So's the Iliad, so's the Odyssey. Is it need a poem? I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I don't think it might be, but I don't think it is.
From God. And when you look into the Quran, you'll actually realize that it answers all life questions. No stones are left unturned. And for that, I would absolutely...
Did I learn anything from the reading of the Quran? Oh, that's a good question. I've read it 3 times. I've read it in Arabic. Did I learn anything? I've learned about Muslim stuff. I learned about Quranic stuff, Quranic claims. But did I learn anything? Yeah, I spent years reading that book. Oh, dug it. You're making me question my life choices.
Absolutely love to invite you to pick up a Quran and read it for yourself.
I agree. Go read a Quran. Do it right now. I agree.
If you were born before 19...
I absolutely 100% agree. If you haven't read the Quran, go read the Quran. That I do agree with. What is this?
Before I came into the masjid, I really had not had a proper friend. When you become Muslim, like I studied it because I didn't like it at first, and that happens with some Christians. The culture of the Muslims that I knew, I was like, I can't fit into that, Before I came into the masjid, I really had not had a proper friend. When you become Muslim, like the slate is cleaned. So you're the cleanest person in the room right now.
Assalamu alaikum.
Did you just say he didn't have a proper friend? Hold on, let's do that again. Let's hear this again. I got a little sidetracked with my own thoughts. Did he really say he didn't have a proper friend before Islam? Or before the Quran?
I studied it because I didn't like it at first, and that happens with some Christians. The culture of the Muslims that I knew, I was like, I can't fit into that, Before I came into the masjid, I really had not had a proper friend. When you become Muslim, like the slate is cleaned. So you're the
That's sad. That's sad.
cleanest person in the room right now.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, so we'll get right into it. Tell the people what your name is and where you're from.
My name's David, and I'm from here in Utica. I've lived here my whole life.
Okay, so what was your experience like growing up?
We weren't too religious. My father was Gnostic, not agnostic, but Gnostic like Gnostic Christians.
I mean, I can encounter with what my life was like growing up. From years 1 to 8, I lived in a very poor neighborhood. Everyone spoke Spanish. No one spoke English on my entire block except for me, one girl who I was friends with, and my best friend, Robert Sims. We used to jump fences. We used to steal baseball cards. And a lot of bike riding and skateboarding and stuff like that. My life from 1998 till 1992, 93. I went to a rich neighborhood. Did not fit in, was mostly a white neighborhood. I was definitely not of that. And it was mostly playing baseball, which was not a sport I was familiar with. From 12, 13 till about 15, I got really insular, became really goth, and I guess you'd kind of, that term didn't exist at the time, but you'd call me kind of a neat, kind of an incel at that point. Kind of a loner. I still had friends, but all my friends were weirdos. And then from 16 to 23, became the most popular person at a school I didn't attend. That was awesome. Had a lot of friends, mostly because I had a car and I was willing to go pick people up. But it worked out. I got to go to all the cool bars and cool clubs and do all that kind of thing. A lot of goth nights. And went to the beach every day after school. That was awesome. From 23 to 25, went to college. It was college. What can I say? From 25 to 30, taught martial arts, lived martial arts, loved martial arts. From a little bit before 30, 27 to 33, I got really lazy, really fat, dated some people I didn't really like, really shouldn't have been dating, and my quality of life went really down. Got super fat, got diabetic, went through a lot of health stuff, got back together. By the time that I was 35, I was in Catholicism. I was all the way in. So I at 33, I converted. 35, I was bam, bam, bam. And met my wife. And then from 35 till last year, till January of this year, I was a car salesman. And I was a lot lizard. And good paychecks, not a lot of free time. Got really fat, got really unhappy. My wife went back to China because my dad got sick. I quit my job so I could take care of my dad. And now I'm here. This is where I'm at right now in my life. There you go. That's my summary. Yeah.
It's not a very well remembered part of Christian history, but they're actually a lot closer to the Christians before, before the Catholic Church, kind of reigned supreme. There was a lot of different groups, and the Gnostics were among them. They had different.
That's completely incorrect. So the original church called itself Catholic. Whether or not you want to say that Catholic Church is the Catholic Church, it's really irrelevant. Basically, all the churches were one church. Then there was a split. Then there was another split. Then there was another split. The major split was between the Orthodox and the Catholic. But originally, all 5 original churches are the original church. There were other churches, but they were destroyed by Islam. And the Gnostics are offshoots of heretics that were kicked out of the Christian traditions. And their writings, and this is something that Alex O'Connor got wrong in his debate that D'Souza didn't correct him on. The other Gospels are written anywhere from 100 years to up to 1,000 years after the death of Jesus. They are not relevant to early Christendom, and they shouldn't be part of the conversation.
Beliefs. And
Bam!
My grandmother, his mother, is also Gnostic, and when she came with me to the masjid once, she kind of said, oh, I know some of this stuff because of Gnosticism. We do similar things, but it was pretty normal in the house. I mean, we fought a lot, but it was nothing that was too odd, at least in that sense. A lot of the problems that I had came from school, things like that, but the house itself was pretty normal.
I had a lot of friends when I was a little kid. So from little kid to 6, tons of friends. From 6 to 8, everybody in my old neighborhood was moving out of my neighborhood. I wasn't the last to leave it. I was one of the last to leave. New neighborhood, new kids, new population, not so many friends. Mom was dead. I was a little weird. So, yeah. But I was friends with a lot of girls. I was. Surprisingly beautiful girls who were also models. And that was true until high school. And sometime around 8th or 9th grade, I got me my muscles. And then I started attracting a very different type of girl. Pre-muscles, very beautiful women liked a really weird kid with a lot of dandruff. Post-muscles, not so many girls were into me. But the ones that were a little obsessive. And that was very fun. And then good high school friends. Actually, great high school friends. In fact, most of us are still friends today. Made new friends in college. And me and those people have now been friends for 20 years. Made some good friends selling cars. Made some good acquaintances. Made some good acquaintances. B.S. Lewis says that's simping. Made some good acquaintances when I was a personal trainer. I don't know if I made any lifelong friends. But I think I have some lifelong friends from the dealership. And my current life, I haven't made any friends yet in my new job, but I like the people I work with. I generally do like them. So, yeah. All right. Let's keep going.
So did you always believe in God, or?
When I was young, even I was in that kind of Christian family that even though they didn't go to church, they believed.
Yes, I always believed in God.
A lot, they had a lot of faith, even though we didn't go to church or anything when I was a kid. My father would tell me all these things, and he would read the Bible on his own, so he would kind of tell me these things and about God and these things. And a lot of this stuff was more kind of his own interpretations of things rather than, the sayings of this church or that church. It was a very personal thing, like it is with a lot of Protestant Christians.
Yeah, mostly.
And my mother was Catholic, but not very practicing. I didn't go to church when I was a kid. And
she can't be a Gnostic if she was a Catholic. She can't be a Catholic if she was a Gnostic. Gotcha.
I did believe when I was a kid. I certainly believed, and I remember I had very, very strong faith. We were taught not to use the Lord's name in vain. We were taught, no swearing. I mean, it was very conservative in that sense. And when I had started to go to middle school, when I started to have a lot of problems, and when my life started to change.
When did I start having a lot of problems? It has to be after I got jumped and my heart got stopped. So something between 88, 89. It's probably when my problem started, because that's when I stopped associating with all of the normal kids. But I would say things got really hard for me in fifth grade. Fifth grade is when things got hard, because I started going to school drunk, and that was fun. And I believed in ghosts, and I believed in goblins, and I believed in witchcraft, and I practiced all that crazy shit. And I got every book I could to see if I could make it work. It didn't. Sad news flash. Ghosts aren't real. Magic isn't real. Surprisingly, girls liked me even as I was being a weirdo creep. I don't understand that. That kept going till about the seventh grade, because the summer of seventh grade, right before eighth grade. The summer after seventh grade, the summer before eighth grade, testosterone hit. And there's this picture. The muscles aren't big if I look back now and I compare it to how big my muscles are now. But there's this cool picture where I'm like wearing like a black hunting vest, and I got the sunglasses on. I got the black socks cap on, and I'm flexing my biceps, because my biceps bigger than my head, and I'm just like, you know. It doesn't look good. It looked amazing at the time, and it just looks like baby muscle. It doesn't look like man muscle. But yeah. But Lapsed Catholic is training for Islam, apparently. And also not having any friends, and having a absentee father, and kind of a shitty life for no apparent reason and no fault of your own. That seems to be who they're attracting, at least from the 3 nights of videos we've been watching. And remember, I picked these randomly, so it's just, that seems to be who they're attracting.
A lot. I started to have this thought, everything kind of felt like my life was falling apart. My mother got very sick at the time. That kind of compounded into the middle of everything. And I kept just thinking, I always have God. And my faith started to get really shaken, because it started to feel like something. And I think this happened because it was this way for a lot of the people around me.
I'm so
it
tired.
Maybe they believed, but it was something that they believed, but it kind of only came out when they were
I
in
still
trouble.
have to work
It kind
out.
of only came out when, they needed something, And I remember no matter what happened, I always just thought, well, I always have God. And then I remember I was sitting in history class in the 6th grade. I remember the exact moment that it happened. I was just sitting there, and I just started to have this thought. It just struck me
I remember what I was doing when I was in 6th grade, and I can't share that on YouTube.
all at once, like, what if God isn't real? Then everything else just kind of falls apart. And at that point, I was developing
Hey, BS. I did not have a shitty life, and I'm a Catholic. So watch yourself, boy.
a serious anxiety disorder. I was getting serious anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and that did not help. That felt like my whole world crumbled around me, everything that I understood. It felt like the school didn't support me as much. It felt like my parents were trying to support me, but didn't really have any power to. And after that, I really considered myself an atheist for a very long time after that.
What changed from you?
You hear that?
believing in-
You heard that? You heard that? That's the second or third Muslim I've heard that they came from atheists, not from Catholics. See, Lewis? See? BS, I'm telling you. It's the atheism that's the problem. That's where the problem's happening.
in God, and then you had the mindset of, is God real?
Poor lost little atheist needs some guidance and some help, and Muslims and Islam just comes up and sweeps them up.
I mean, one, my mother was sick, but two, a lot of it was that I was going through a lot in school. I had a lot of issues, even when I was in grade school in Jones. But it was manageable, and I was getting very good grades, and so everything would just kind of get pushed along. When I got into middle school, I did not have many friends. I didn't have great social skills. I started getting bullied a lot. I started to really completely fall apart.
Okay. I got bullied too. I did. But then I got me my muscles. That's why. Hold on. That's why sausage. Oh my god! I hate that this thing gets. The stupid heart blocks the words. That's why sausage just hasn't been hitting the spot. So I've been working out again. I've been working out for 2 months. I'm not in great shape yet. I'm not. But my muscles be coming back. I'm in my 40s and I'm getting my muscles back.
And after getting bullied so much and realizing that the school really didn't have too much that they were interested in doing about it.
Okay, interesting side note, just because right now it's just me and like 2 of my friends in here. Real story. Not only are those $10,000 worth of figurines missing, my photos from my high school days are missing. All of them. I was looking for them the other night for something I was going to put on video, put on screen. It's a little blue box. It's a Polaroid box, and it has all my high school photos. They're all gone. Everything with my blue hair, everything with my piercings, everything with all my goth friends. I had already gotten rid of the pictures of me with my girlfriend that was in the business. I already got rid of those photos a long time ago. But there are other exes that were in that thing, and they're missing. I'm wondering if my wife threw away my photos of my exes and threw away my toys. That's what I'm wondering. I am. I realize I've had multiple caregivers for 2.5 years taking care of my dad, and they all brought their kids in, so anyone could have stolen the toys. I get it. But I'm seriously wondering if it was my wife that just threw them away.
Because of how things are in the U.S. sometimes, kids get in trouble and then or someone does something and they say, oh, well, you're both suspended. That started to happen. And, when you're a straight A student who takes pride in his academic skills, things like that, when you see that the school is just willing to suspend you like that just because there was an issue between you and some other student that, not that they started something, but that they just kind of hit you out of nowhere or, it really started to make me realize.
Never clip that part and show it to my wife because she will murder me.
That the school system didn't care about me so much. My family was having its own issues because my mother was very sick. And when I realized that the number one thing that held my life together, school, really didn't matter to a lot of the teachers because the teachers in my middle school were not like the teachers at my grade school. Grade school teachers are all nice and they like the kids. And then middle school, it's the younger teachers that don't have as much seniority, It's a very different situation. And that it was just sort of
I'm not going to say what I was going to say something about what me and my friends thought of our teachers. It would get me in trouble, so I'm not going to say it. But let's just say that my friends were perverts.
Everything fell apart, and then that fell apart with it.
Okay, so when was the first time you heard about Islam, and what attracted you to it?
The first time
I heard about Islam was watching Malcolm X. My uncle was the head lawyer for AT&T at the time. He later became the head lawyer for the state of Texas. Malcolm X comes out. I'm not sure if my uncle had already done a case in front of the Supreme Court already, but he wanted us to have an authentic experience. So he had me and his son, who was like the whitest kid you've ever seen, and my dad go to the blackest part, and I mean the blackest part of Houston, go to a historical black theater, and had us watch Malcolm X. Now, he hadn't seen Malcolm X yet, so he didn't know what happened in the movie. And it was an experience. But that was my introduction to Islam, was watching Malcolm X. My other introduction to Islam was actually another movie. It was watching the Kevin Costner Robin Hood. So that was my introduction to Islam. The Malcolm X one really influenced me. I had a similar experience watching IP Man, the fourth movie, because I watched it in China with my wife, and the enemy in that movie is America, and I'm the only American. and it was the same thing. The Chinese people around me just started going crazy and like yelling and like cheering on when the Americans started getting their butts kicked, and I'm just like, I remember this feeling. I've been here before.
I heard about Islam was when I was younger. It was actually, I think, one of my older brother's friends was Muslim, and I knew nothing about Islam. I knew nothing about Islam. I knew from my father being pretty conservative. He watched Fox News a lot. He, voted Republican every single election. You would have never known he was a first-generation immigrant. I mean, really. But, he, of course, I grew up, I was born 97, so I was just starting preschool when the Twin Towers were hit. And the story that
I was out of college, and I thought I had called my girlfriend at the time. She wasn't my girlfriend. Let's be real about it. The girl I was dating, who was pursuing me, who I kept on fucking it up, right? The towers get hit. I'm sleeping on the couch, on a couch, on a fold-out couch. My dad calls me. This is pre-cell phones, by the way. I don't know how I got the phone call. But I'm completely in shock. And the first thing I do is I think about the girl I'm dating. I'm like, I'm going to call her, make sure she's okay. And I have a full conversation with her. I don't call her. I call the girl I've been in love with since I was 12 years old. And I have a whole conversation with her. I don't know it's her. Years later, when she got divorced, she calls me at like 3 a.m. when I was about to do something really stupid. I was going through like a cancer scare. I was like 25 at the time, 25, 26, 25. And a waitress offered to have my baby, and I was considering being someone's baby daddy. And, the whole no strings attached thing. And this friend calls me. She goes, yeah, I always thought you always stuck in my mind because when the towers hit, you're the first person that called me. And I was like, oh, shit. I didn't call the girl I was dating at the time. We broke up. I didn't call the girl I was dating at the time. I called my childhood crush. She never changed her number. So, like, it's just the number that popped into my head, and I thought I was dialing. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's... Val, if you're watching this, I am so sorry. I was a shitty pseudo-boyfriend. You were so awesome and so much better than me, and are still so much better than me. You lucked out by us not working out.
I heard from my father is that he was sitting here, I think he was in the garage at my house with the radio on, sitting with one of his buddies, and they heard the news. And remember, when the first year of the news, nobody knows what's going on. But my father immediately said, that's it started. He immediately jumped to, this is a terrorist attack. And he knew it was, from the Middle East. He knew it was Islamic terror. He knew it, so that was his first thought immediately. So he didn't have the highest opinion of Islam. That was, nobody else was.
Yeah, I remember the night, from like 1986 to 1989, watching the man who knew tomorrow, or the man who thought tomorrow, or something like that, from Orson Welles, and we were inundated with an attack like that was going to happen in New York. Now, everything was pointing it to 1999, and all the TV shows and movies, and we were making it about 1999. So when it didn't happen, we all felt relieved, and we all thought, we all felt and thought that we were stupid when the Y2K turned out to be nothing, right? And then it happens 2 years later. It's like, the expression of reasons that we were all sleeping because we were all like relieved that nothing actually happened. And we all kind of felt like left out because like we were like, oh, we thought we were going to have be like this great generation. And then when it actually came, we all were like shocked. And it always makes me think about in the Jesus narrative, you have Jesus on the cross saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? Literally saying the psalm that tells exactly what's happening to him. And the people in the crowd don't get it. And we were the people in the crowd. We didn't get it. We didn't get that all the signs were pointing to this is going to happen. And then it happened. And we were still shocked and surprised.
Really, most people didn't have that as their first thought.
Yeah.
And so when I met my friend, he was Bosnian, and he had a little bit of different rules about it. He would say, the food's fine. You just say Bismillah before you eat it. And so that was really my first exposure to Islam. But I think maybe I had some sense like the way he practices it isn't the way a lot of other people practice it. So I was very confused about it, but I did know that he was a very, very good, kind, caring brother. Out of all of my brother's friends, he was probably one of the most, if not the most supportive and genuine and honest. And that did leave an effect on me. But years later, I studied Islam a bit more because what first happened was I was talking to my friend. I became, kind of one of those, this happens to a lot of people that lose their faith. They kind of have a phase where they're very liberal, very atheistic. They're very, listening to heavy metal music, watching a bunch of movies, painting, stuff like that. I had that whole phase. And after that, as I got a little older, I started looking into things a bit more. And I had a friend who was pretty conservative, and he said, we look, like a lot of this stuff is, that's happening today is we've moved further from Christianity. And he wasn't necessarily Catholic, but he had an affinity for the Catholic Church. And I knew from my education, I knew from a little bit when I was younger about the Catholic Church. When I was
I don't know if you can tell by my expression, but I don't believe him for 1 second that he knew about the Catholic Church.
around that time, in middle school, my grandmother passed away, my mother's mother, and that's when I started going to church, and that's when I started going to the youth group. And that's when I learned about
Does that math work that he just said?
Catholicism properly and got a proper education in it. To some extent, we started going to church every Sunday, and that was by the time that happened, I was already decided I didn't believe in God anymore, so it didn't work on me at that time. It was a delayed, it was like you take medicine, they say wait a few hours. It was a delayed thing. So then I started going back into church on my own. I started studying the Catholic Church a lot, and I just realized a lot of stuff in Catholicism really bothered me. A lot of people, if you ask them, when they
It looks like I get to do some counter apologetics after all. This might be a productive night, people.
leave Catholicism, either they become Protestant or they become Muslim or something else. The big thing that they say is the Trinity, things like that. It wasn't that for me. I'm Colombian. My father came over here when he was like 3. He didn't even speak Spanish. I mean, he was, like I said, completely westernized. And if you look at the history of the Catholic Church, you see a lot of stuff. A lot of people talk about the Crusades, things like that. There's a lot of other things. And when I remember looking, and I used to be in communities where
Be specific. Dog it. Be specific.
or online communities where people talk to each other and talking to a bunch of Christians, and there were Catholic priests that were liberation theologists. I don't know if you've ever heard this term, but it's not the most famous part of Catholic history, but essentially they were
It's a very famous part of Catholic history. All of Latin America knows about this, and a lot of Latin Americans are still liberation theologists. In fact, that's the accusation that was leveled against the Pope before he became Pope, and even after he's Pope by Protestants, they still level that at him.
socialists, and they were politically active socialists. And the priests in Latin America often supported them. I think famously Bishop Romero, I think in El Salvador, I can't remember exactly what country. Raul Julia played him in a movie once. And they were essentially priests that openly supported socialists, but the old school term would be partisans. And essentially they got politically involved on the side of socialists. And as I kind of talked to the Catholics I knew about this, and I said, these guys kind of supported communists. And if you look at South America today, the country.
There's a big push right now in both American Christians and Catholics against democracy because of the whole woke thing that has developed and the populism that has developed, and they've kind of been going toward monarchyism. They want to bring back kings and reconquistas. Hijosu.
The region is still not stable, and I said, why do you guys get the right to send priests over from the Vatican, with these ideas in their head to fund these groups, not to fund them, but to directly participate in them? Like, why do you get to have that much political activity? But then when it comes to the United States, all of a sudden, or other regions, they don't want to get politically involved. All this other stuff is happening, and the Catholic Church has no comment on it, And they never had a good answer for me. And a lot of it had to do with that. So then I became Orthodox for a bit. So it was like this whole journey that a lot of Christians go through, and then I was Orthodox. I went to an Orthodox.
I got a feeling he didn't actually become Orthodox because that's like a whole process.
Church, and then I went to a Protestant church, and eventually, as I studied this, I started
Attending isn't the same as being a member of or actually participating or being
studying Judaism and Islam more. And the more and more that I studied it, the more I realized all of these issues I have with all these Christian denominations, it doesn't exist in Islam. We know that we used to pray at set times during the day in the days of the Jews. We know that the Christians used to
Catholics still do it. It's called the Liturgy of the Hours.
do this. we know that the Christians don't do this too much anymore. Catholics say you should do it, but how many Catholics do it? And, when I realized that, the prayer, like not eating pork, like that I knew, but, I didn't realize that it was taken so seriously. All these things that I used to think, oh, Muslims do this, like the veiling, women veiling. When I realized that these were just Jewish Christian practices, I started to look at Islam differently. But
So when did you realize Islam was the truth? Tell me about that.
for years, I was more and more attracted to it. And I would talk about it with my friend where, because we had a bit of a Christian background, we looked down on it, honestly. I don't tell too many people at the masjid that, but I studied it because I didn't like it at first, and that happens with some Christians. And I studied it because I didn't like it. And the more I studied it, the more I realized, that none of this really bothers me when I actually read and get proper answers, as opposed to, talking to random people that said they were Muslim.
So I had a very fond understanding of Islam until I read the Quran. The Quran really turned me away from Islam, just to be very blunt about it. More so the Dawah-esque people and the online digital apologists for Islam. They really turned me off. The Andrew Tates of the world, the hijabs. They were living in my comment section, and what they were saying was just disgusting. And I blocked most of them. I was mostly having to block like atheists who were like getting triggered by these people, but I blocked both. It didn't matter what side you're on. I want to be fair about it. And I before that, I was like a total free speech absolutist, and then once people started threatening each other in my comment section, this is the old YouTube where that was allowed, I started banning people, and there went my free speech absolutism.
Muslim about it. When you read the historical rulings of the scholars and things, and you realize how sensical it is, how not just how sensical it is, but how reasonable it is. All these different rulings that are just seem like common sense, but you talk to random people and they all have their own ideas. Oh, you can't eat shellfish, you can't do this, and at a certain point, I got to a point where I realized that I was only interested in Christian denominations based on how close they were to Islam. Because I didn't think I could be Muslim. So I said, I'll do the next best thing. I'll be the Christians that are closest to Muslims, which is the silliest thing. But I really did that for years, because I just felt like, the whole culture of a lot of the Muslims, I'm not saying that it's cultural, but, the culture of the Muslims that I knew, I was like, I can't fit into that, like learning Arabic and doing all this stuff. And it just felt like too much. It felt like something I couldn't do. And there's not too many, there's Muslims here now, but it's not like, it's not like a majority or anything. So I wasn't surrounded by practicing Muslims. It was just the one Bosnian I knew when I was younger. And eventually I think I got to a point where I was really low, and I had an issue in my house, and I just walked out the door in my socks, and just these little black socks. And it was raining, and I walked all the way from my house in South Utica. I walked all the way down Genesee to Court Street Masjid. And it must have been 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And I must have sat there for an hour, 2 hours. And I said, I don't know why, but I think I knew that there was another masjid on Bleecker, the West Bosnian. So I walked all the way. Once I realized no one was going there, I walked all the way to West Bosnian Masjid, which I still have never been in. But once I got there, I sat on the chair that's on the front porch there. It was just a cat chilling out, because the masjid has to have a cat near it at all times. It's a rule. And nobody came there, and eventually I ended up just walking home. And after that, I think I went and found an online community of Muslims, and I just kind of told them that how I felt, and I felt like I should become Muslim, like I really wanted to at that point. And they said, you don't have to do it with people, you can just take the Shahada. And I took the Shahada. Basically, I think I read that you have to take a shower first, which I don't even know if that's true. So I took a shower, and I took the Shahada in my room. And that was when I had the feeling, when people say you take your Shahada, you get that rush. That wave just comes over you. And I remember after that, I felt so incredible. But because I didn't have anybody that I knew locally, I had...
Why does that make me think of the Mormon burning in your belly thing?
No community. I was just I didn't know what to do. I just stopped eating pork for a bit. I wasn't really ready to tell my family, and that was a few years ago. And
I tried veganism and vegetarianism. I tried vegetarianism. I could actually pull off for long periods of time. Veganism, I couldn't. But when I read the Bible for the first 2 times, seriously, all the way through, I quit eating pork and shellfish for that time period. When I got to the New Testament, and I got to Peter, I realized that was the wrong approach. But even after I realized it was the wrong approach, I still kept the practice. It wasn't until I read it the second time and it kind of like hit me like I'm being kind of stupid. And so I quit. I started eating all foods again. But yeah.
And I just kind of gave up, but I would kind of come and look at Christianity again, and I would do the same thing. What Christians are the closest to Muslims, right? I was, and I would grow my beard out and everything, but I wouldn't say that I'm Muslim, but I was still interested, but it just felt like it was too much for me to handle.
For me, it was more Judaism. Had a very strong calling to me. I really started falling in love with Judaism. And it was in my 7th read through of the Bible with Paul's. I didn't like Paul's apparent misogyny and his apparent homophobia, but it was his anti-Semitism that really bothered me and really was shaking me. And that's where I started looking for answers. Because I had a really strong call to Judaism.
So that happens for a few years on and off that I become a religious again, and then I feel like it's too much. And I ended up going to Morocco. And in Morocco, I didn't have a good experience. And I thought, if this is what Islam is, then maybe it's not for me. And after that, I didn't do too much for a while, maybe a year and a half.
Well, that's confusing the people for the faith. And it's a mistake a lot of people make, but that's confusing the people for the faith. The practitioners are not always the best examples of the faith in its purest form.
Half passes, and finally something happens, and I just come into Utica Masjid, and I walked in, and when I walked in, I hadn't spoken to people in months. I think you remember, when I first came into the masjid, I was pretty shy. I didn't say all that much. I went in, and somebody came up to me. He was maybe 5'6".
Because I've been getting a really large boost on videos about 2 days after I post them, or live streams about 2 days after I post them. Just fair warning to my Muslim viewers. I'm doing this because I want to learn more about Islam. I'm doing these videos for this week because I want to cover all the major religions in the world and even the minor religions of the world. I want to do at least 52 different religions this year alone on my channel. I am not doing this to convert. I am not interested in converting. I have read the Quran 3 times in English. I have heard the Quran be recited in Arabic. While I do think the recitations are beautiful, they didn't do anything for me. I do not have a call or an urge or anything when it comes to Islam or being a Muslim or anything like that. I'm not interested. I know that's going to be hard for you all to hear, but it's just the truth. I was very interested in your religion, in the religion of Islam. I tried reading the Quran for the first time when I was about 17. I tried again at around 20 or 20, somewhere in my early 20s. And then I didn't try again until I started doing it on camera. And the first, I think, 3 prayers or 3 chapters in the Quran were absolutely beautiful. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this could go somewhere. And then I get to the 4th or the 5th chapter, and I'm like, nope, this is against everything that I've learned in my life. The principles, the theologies, the maxims were antithetical to the experiences that I had in my life and the lessons that I learned in my life. If I had heard this stuff when I was a young teenager, maybe it would have been more convincing, but hearing it as a then 33-year-old man, it didn't have the same effect on me. I did get very deep into it. I read, I think, 2 different hadith collections, one main one. I read about 2 different tafsirs, and I've read the commentaries. I got as deep into it as I could get into it without being a believer. I have friends who are Muslim. I think I said yesterday or the day before that from the age of maybe 15 till the age of 42, there's been at least one great Muslim friend, acquaintance in my life every year for all of those years. And this is the first year I don't have someone who's Muslim in my life. But as much as I love my friends and I miss those people, and we were kind to each other and loving to each other, I never felt a call to Islam. So sorry to break your hearts, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to convert. I'm not trying to convert anyone else. I'm just simply interested in intellectual engagement and to learn more about Islam. And since I've already done the readings, I'm interested in videos about conversion and comparing and contrasting Islam to Christianity, Islam to Judaism, Islam to different faiths, and why people converted into Islam when they were a different faith to begin with, or a different belief system to begin with.
So he was Somalian. He had a kufi on. I had no idea who this was, and he just came up to me and he asked me what was going on. I told him that I, had done this, but I'd never really properly learned how to pray. I'd never come to the masjid before. He was just smiling, talking to me, and he just said, "Give me a hug, brother." And he hugged me, and I remember when he hugged me for the first time. And you know who I'm talking about, Ahmed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And when he hugged me for that first time, I literally shivered because I hadn't touched anyone in months. I hadn't even spoken to people really, let alone touched anyone. I was so overwhelmed. I could hardly speak, and he got a bunch of brothers that were in the masjid at that time together. I think Mohsen was there at the time. I think maybe Brother Ashraf, a few other people. It was Asr, so no, it was Duhur, so there wasn't that many people. And I took my Shahada again, and I remember one of the brothers, it may have been Mohsen actually, that said, what we told the other brother the other day, when you become Muslim, like the slate is cleaned. So you're the cleanest person in the room right now, like you're the purest of us. Yeah, and I remember that really stuck with me. I came back later, and I think at the later prayer I met you. And I remember you told me how to pray, and I still remember most of what you said. I remember that you said if you're making a rakat and someone is coming in, like you just hold it, which I never see people do. But I do remember you said that. And ever since then, I've just become more and more involved in the masjid to the point that we're at right now.
MashaAllah. So how did your life change after becoming Muslim?
Well, I feel like I became Muslim twice. The first time, it didn't. And then the second time, I think when I met Muslims sometimes, I would just kind of, like the first time, I would just sometimes meet Muslims and tell them that I was Muslim. They'd be like, "Oh, you pray?" I'd be like, "No." And then they'd be like, "Okay." And so they didn't take it too seriously. The second time when I came into the masjid, it was a really overwhelming change. I think I've told you before, before I came into the masjid, I really had not had a proper friend. I maybe had one or two friends in 10 years. I mean, it's really, especially where we live, hard to meet people, hard to find people to do things with, especially if you're not drinking anything like.
So in my old neighborhood, Debbie, Roland, kid's name I can't remember, Robert, and there was another person. So maybe six friends from my neighborhood. In school, Sarah, Michelle, Christopher. So maybe 3-4 friends from school, and about 6 friends from my neighborhood when I was a little kid. When I came to this neighborhood, and I had no friends, there was Monica, Teresa. Sheila was a friend. Let me see. Jessica. Williams. He was awesome. A guy named Tony. It was more of acquaintance, but we hung out. Warthog. And Annie. So in junior high, maybe 8 friends. High school. Before getting popular, high school would have been You know what? Before getting popular, probably no friends for about maybe a year or two. When I got popular, way too many people to count. But the core group was Marcos, JR, Watson, Robbie. Even though I hated the guy, Jason, I think he hated me too. It doesn't matter. We were friends. And he had his own group, so it didn't matter. We're at 5. Christian, Lexi, Sylvia. Who else? That girl's name I can't remember. We just call her Jessica. Let's see. Who else was in the core group? JR. Angel, of course. Guess there were 10. Ryan, Oscar, David. Robert Richardson would have been junior high. So let's say 15. 15 friends in high school. And then in college, Safi Youssef, Jasmine. Did I call the girl I was dating at the time my friend? Yeah, I guess I will. So that's 3. Whatever that chick's name was. It's 4. Dita, Eric, Ryan. Ryan's a girl, by the way. David. And okay, so 7 friends not 8 friends. 8 friends in college. I'm saying friends. I don't mean like just acquaintances or people I got along with. Like ride or die, you know what I mean? When I was doing martial arts, Lisa, Randy, Arodi, Josh. Oh, I love Josh. Tony, Brian, six friends, 6 good friends. And if I haven't mentioned you and we dated, I'm not counting you in that circle, okay? Because that's something different. We were doing things. There's just people that we were just, playing video games and talking bullshit and smoking cigars, Yeah. And then at the dealership, Louis. Love Louis. Abraham. Louis, Abraham, Aldo, Grace, Luis, Z, Eddie, Eric, I love you, brother. Let's see. Homero. Even though there's a little bit of competition there. Let's see. Justin. Oral. About 10 people. About 10 really solid friends. Like, we might be lifelong friends. About 10 from the dealership. Yeah, so yeah, that was my life. I never had no friends, but I was never the most popular person in the world. Like I said, there was just like a brief time, like toward the end of high school, where my friend group expanded to like over 200 people. But you can't be friends with that many people at one time.
like that.
Sociable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was sociable.
Social life.
Yeah, I was sociable. It's just that I wasn't. I don't do the things a lot of people in Utica do. Which alhamdulillah. But when I came into the masjid, I started to talk to the brothers more. I started to meet the brothers more. I reverted. You probably don't even remember this. 1 week before Ramadan.
No, I do.
It was in the week before
it was
Ramadan.
fresh, yeah, right
and then
before it.
I think I came in once, and then
Special shout out to Diana. Special shout out to Dita.
didn't go in for like a week or two, and then I came back. And since I came back, But when I came back, it was in the middle of Ramadan, and Ahmed, I told I was having difficulties and I was concerned about these things, and I guess Ahmed just called an audible, and he just said, okay, because that day I'd biked there, and he said, let's get your bike in my car. And we spent 20 or 30 minutes sticking my giant bike in the back of his car. You've seen my bike. It's ridiculous. We had to jam it in and turn the side of it. And then his kids had to get in. We had to pick up his kids and drop me off. And his kids are just kind of sitting there not buckled.
This guy just sounds like he's lonely. It doesn't sound like he had a religious conversion. It just sounds like he's lonely.
And just kind of in the back. And he dropped me off and he said, okay, you know when the next prayer is? I said,
And he feels like he found a place where he belongs.
yeah. He said, you want to come for the next prayer? I said, yeah. He said, I can pick you up. You don't have to, because I told him it's going to be a lot to bike all those times because I wanted to go 5 times a day. And he said, that's going to be a lot. I'll pick you up for the next prayer. And then he picked me up for the next prayer. And he said, all right, the next prayer, last prayer is, Isha. But this time, he said, I'll pick you up. I think he said this, but basically since that day to the end of Ramadan, he picked me up at least twice a day to go pray at the masjid. And it was basically Ahmed giving me a crash course in being Muslim. I mean, I just spent every day with him for the last month of Ramadan, or the month of Ramadan, and the last 15 days, I think a few days before the last 10 days, he said.
Also, I'm thinking about, I realize he's saying something, whatever. I'm thinking about, so I was a prep when I was a little kid. I was a little preppy. I was gangster when I was in junior high. Whatever that means. In high school, I every year I was something different. Wiccan for a little while. Anarchist for a little while. In RTC, in a wood shop, auto shop. Eventually, when after my IQ was shown to be high, they put me in freaking psychology and debate and a few other things, but I didn't really fit in there. I'd already adjusted the other way. Let's see. Goth. I became goth. I became goth and metal at some point, and I stayed there. I stayed in goth and metal for long after it was no longer cool to be that. Became a deconstructionist, feminist, identified with all the things that are now alphabet soup, and became an activist for a little while. That was stupid. Became a writer. That was fun. That was awesome. That took work. And it was mostly to impress a girl who I did impress, and I did date for a while, and she was awesome. Oh, I miss her. Let's see. After college, I just went to a lot of clubs. And I did mostly martial arts and wrote. So did that for over 15 years.
Said, all right, I'm off now. So then he started picking me up 5 times a day to go pray at the masjid. And I remember the first time that we did all 5 prayers in the masjid, I was ecstatic because that was always like a dream of mine for years to even pray at the masjid once, but to do it all 5 times.
I've always had a call also to monasticism and monkish mysticism and isolationism and hermitage, like all that kind of stuff has always called to me and drawn to me. I look forward to reading the Desert Fathers when I get to them.
Times. And, I ended up helping him with his computer, sort of helping. We broke stuff and then we fixed it. I met, his family, his nephew. You came with us a few times. We would go to the park. Anything that he did, I was just there for it. He just adopted me for that whole month. He showed me where so I started
Seriously, this guy
just in the masjid. I showed up every night for iftar.
Seriously, this guy just sounds lonely. Like, don't get me wrong, I was an outcast. I wore all black. I wish I could find the pictures. I looked for them the other day and I couldn't find them. I wore all black. I had the blue hair. I still have the weird crosses and the symbols and the runes and everything I used to wear. I still have all the black boots. I can tell you that much. I only got rid of a few of them because my wife was like, "You have too many black boots." But yeah, man, I don't know. The rest of the summer, I was a surfer. That happened. We don't talk about that summer.
Needed effort to meet new people every single night. And it got to a point where by the end of Ramadan, I knew most of the brothers in the masjid that regularly came on a first name basis.
You know, what's really weird and funny is that being outcast didn't hurt my dating life at all. It didn't. Like, you think it would have. You think being rejected by the football players and the cool kids would have hurt my reputation. But with the group of people who I was friends with, it bolstered my reputation. We started skipping school or skipping class and to smoke cigarettes and drink. And I would get invited to go to Mexico. I would never go because I was too much of a pussy, but I would get invited. Yeah, so I mean, it lessened the amount of male friends that I had, but it didn't lessen the amount of female friends that I had. And it didn't lessen my dating pool or what girl I could go for, although it did change the girl that I went for. I changed who I dated, but not the amount of opportunities I had for dating. Weird. And, it's not like I said, it's not like I had a ton of relationships either. I mean, while my numbers are high, they're not that high. They're not like insane to Gen Alpha, whatever the heck numbers, or Gen X numbers, or not Gen X, sorry. Gen Z numbers? Whatever. The one that's the generation that got really slutty. They're not those kind of numbers. But for my generation, they're not bad. I have good stats.
So being around the brothers coming to the masjid, did that help you navigate better?
When I came back into the masjid, the first time I came into the Utica masjid, I was beyond depressed. I knew I had to make a change. I knew I really was thinking, if I don't make a change, I'm not going to last very long on this earth. I was not okay. I really just threw myself at the masjid. I just went and I said, I just have to do this.
That's sad to hear.
I was having issues and stuff, and I just said, you've wanted to do this for years, just do it. And I went in and I said, whatever they want me to do, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to question it. I'm going to just do everything that I'm told. I'm just going to be as Muslim as I can, as social as I can, as much as I can be. And, one thing I realized is and this happens with...
I feel bad for this guy. I'm sorry. Yet extreme loneliness, being the weird guy, all that kind of stuff. That sucks, man. I mean, I've been there, but still, that sucks. Except I wasn't ever lonely, but I was by myself a lot. I was an isolationist. I was a loner.
A lot of reverts. And I think you talked in your video that you had kind of a period like this. When you become Muslim, before you have a proper Muslim community around you, it's very different. On one hand, you like having the community around, and on the other hand, there's definitely times where I wish I could go back to not having to be held accountable for things. Because it was just, I was eating with my left hand, I was just, eating not whatever I wanted, but, I didn't know any of the rules about eating, I wasn't saying Bismillah. I mean, it really helps me have a proper understanding in the day-to-day manners and things that we do as Muslims. But it also was like, oh, now I'm finally doing like the real thing. It's like the difference between like drawing for fun and then drawing as a career. Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. It's really what it's like is, like, I liked being properly Muslim for the first time, but it became stressful all of a sudden. Now, especially when you have to hit those 5 prayers, like, it came at me all at once because, reverting and doing that in the middle of Ramadan, like that's...
So what was your biggest challenge after becoming Muslim?
The biggest challenge, to me, there's a lot of challenges. And it really depends on what you take seriously and what you consider the challenge to be. To me, the biggest challenge is making sure I hit all 5 daily prayers because that's fun. That's obligatory. That to me is the number one thing because everything else, you sin and then you repent, whatever, But as far as the 5 pillars go...
I really thought I was going to get through multiple videos today. I think this guy's going to be the only guy we watch today. But this has been interesting, and it's given me something to talk about, and it made me wake up a little bit.
The only one that you regularly have to keep in mind. It's not like you're every second thinking, oh, I got to make Hajj, It's not like every second or every day you're thinking, oh, Zakat, I got to get that, The only one that you're thinking about every single day that you're continuously renewing is prayers. And I only say this because I know that there's other not just reverts, but born Muslims that struggle with it as well. Is that, you can be Muslim for a while, I don't know about years, but you can be Muslim for an amount of time and still have trouble making sure, like, oh, I got to do this, telling people, like, making sure that they're aware, making sure you don't forget, we don't live in a Muslim country. We don't live in Saudi Arabia. We don't hear the Adhan every second, and, making sure that you're in a state of wudu and all that stuff that's easily the most difficult thing. The second most difficult thing is probably just getting used to.
I will say this: praying 5 times a day is really hard to do in civilian life. So when I was a religious, when I was living separate from the world, I was able to pray more than 5 times a day. When I took on a profession, a career, I was only able to pray 3 times a day. And then when my dad got sick, it shot down to only once a day. And then during the lockdown, I was able to pray 3 times a day, sometimes 4 times a day on my days off. So it would be 1 day on work, 1 day off work. So I was able to do that. And then on my 1 day off work, I would also go running and exercise and do all that kind of good stuff. Bike riding is when I got into that at that point. And then when we went back, they gave us extended hours, and they were asking us to stay about a bell and all that kind of stuff. My prayer life went down to almost nothing. And that's when I kind of started getting dissatisfied with work, when work was getting in the way of me being able to worship. So I'm grateful that I can worship now. Although now that I can, I don't do it as often as I would want to. I'm not doing 5 times a day. I pray at least once a day, but I'm engaged in Bible stuff almost all the time, almost throughout the entire day. And it's been that way now since I started my reading project back in January. I'm always reading stuff about the faith, so at least there's that. It's not the same, but it's building my faith and building my understanding. And also, I watch a lot of this stuff, especially on the Christian side of things. So I'm getting a lot of theology all the time.
Interacting with people that have been Muslim their whole life, and also are from various Muslim countries with different cultures, and getting used to that and learning these people do this, these people do that, because you can think, oh, they're Muslim and they're practicing, they're all going to know. They're all still very, very different, and sometimes very culturally different.
We're going to go about 10 more minutes, maybe a little bit less, and then we're going to call it a night, guys.
In ways that
I still got to work out.
Keep that in mind,
and I got to go to work tomorrow.
From different places.
How did your family and friends react to your conversion?
Well, the good thing about having no friends is they can't get mad that you're Muslim now. You just skip that one. All the reverts have to deal with that one. I didn't have to deal with that one. Alhamdulillah. No friends to judge. So my family has lived in the United States a long time. All of them. My mother's Puerto Rican, so she's always been American. And we've lived in Utica my whole life, 26 years. And we had my Muslim friend that they had been exposed to that my mother knew, and they just were okay with it. A lot of the reverts, they have stories, not good stories of when they revert, how their family reacts, and, cutting off old friends, and they still feel attached for things like that. Alhamdulillah, I didn't really deal with any of that. My family was pretty understanding. My mother, I was in school at the time, online school, and when I first came to the masjid, I called my mother, and I was standing on the front deck of the masjid, and I was nervous. And I called her, and this is when I still had my old dumb phone, the Nokia I had. So I just called my mother, and I said, she's like, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm on Kemble Street." She's like, "What are you doing there?" And I said, "I'm at the mosque." She said, "Okay." And I said, "Yeah, I guess I'm going to have less pork," because I didn't know how to say it. That's what I said. I said, "I guess I'm going to have to stop having pork." And she just kind of said, "David, I don't really care as long as you do your schoolwork." And that was all she said. She said, "Whatever you do, religion, that's your personal thing. That's you do that." She literally just, was like, "Please just, get your schoolwork done." And that was all she cared about. My stepfather didn't bother him. My brother didn't hear about it until later, since I didn't talk to him for a little bit. And he just wanted to ask me about it. He was the one that had the Muslim friend, so he wasn't too offended. My mother's family I don't talk to too much, but my father's family, my uncles and aunts, and my grandmother, when they heard about it.
I will say this. I've had several, I'm going to call them opportunities to convert into Islam. And not anything to do or related to reading the Quran. But I think Safi didn't try to convert me, but if he had wanted to, I think I probably would have followed him if he would have pushed. Because I was reading the Quran at the time, and he was my best friend. So if he had wanted me to go attend the mosque with him, I would have been more than willing to go. There was a beautiful female that was in and out of my life. We we weren't dating, we weren't interested in each other. We'd only talk in passing. But I think if she had shown interest in me, that would have been a honey trap. I would have definitely followed whichever way she was going. And this is, of course, pre true conversion. And then I think last year there was someone who kept also coming in and out of my life who I think if she had been interested in converting me, I would have listened. Not last year, 2 years ago, right before the lockdown, right after the lockdown, right before the lockdown, right before the lockdown. Yeah, I think if she would have pressed, I would have listened. My wife and I were exploring different faiths for my wife. And my wife landed on none. She landed on zero. She's no longer completely atheistic. She's not even completely agnostic. Like she's leaning toward there is a God, but she doesn't really like religion. In fact, she kind of hates religion currently of all forms and expressions. And it bores her, it makes her fall asleep. But I think when my wife was in that exploratory phase, if my wife had been convinced by any of these women to try out Islam, I don't think I would have objected. I would have been like, okay, well, I mean, I'm familiar with the faith. I'm familiar with I have friends in the religion. I'm more than comfortable learning about the actual practices and all that. She didn't go that way, so it's a moot point. But yeah, there's like 2 or 3 different times in my life where I think if a Muslim person who was my friend was trying to do outreach and trying to convert me, I don't think they could have converted me, but I think they would have had a good shot, if that makes any sense. Like they would have had a good chance of convinced me of some of the truths of Islam, as people would say. But that didn't happen. I had a friend of mine last year who he tried to make a push, but I was already, and I tried to explain to him that I'm already far deep into Catholicism. I'm already praying 5 times a day. I'm living a completely Catholic life. Like he's kind of coming into it too late. I was like, I don't mind talking about religion with you. I do want to keep learning about Islam, but I'm not interested in converting. That's what I told him. But yeah, there's like I said, maybe 3 times that if someone had pushed, I would have listened a little bit more willingly. But that didn't happen, and eventually I came back to Catholicism. So, but yeah, if my wife had shown interest in Islam, I don't know how I would have reacted. I don't think it would have been a negative reaction.
They were all nice about it, and they've all been very nice, very supportive. I mean, they've never said
I would have just been happy that she believes in God.
anything negative about it. Not even once. I can't think of a single time that they were anything other than positive. So that was a blessing for sure.
What would you say is your favorite thing about Islam?
I'm gonna give away this incredible.
2 more minutes, guys.
Does it sound if I say the food? Getting to
I will say this. Going all the way back to college, there was a professor of mine. It's like I said, there's an older generation of Muslims here that are pre everything that we think about when we say the word Muslim nowadays. Like I'm talking about, like they're from the almost from the founding of our colleges, and our colleges are very old. They're from that far back, and a lot of them have these mixed communities with Indian people. It's the only thing I could say. And so they would have these. There were several restaurants. There was 2 that were, oh my goodness, the food. But there were 2 restaurants that were half Hindu, half Muslim, and so they'd have halal food, and then they'd have vegan, vegetarian food, and they would tell. There were hours you could go when it would be one, it would be the other, and the staff would change and everything. And it was one of them was a pillar of my community, and when it stopped being popular, it was very sad. And I just remember like at one point there were like 5 or 6 of these restaurants that popped up, and there were hookah lounges, and like, it was a very Arabic, I guess, or Middle Eastern push of culture-wise here where I live, and it was right after college. No, it was in college though, because I was taking my journalism courses. Unfortunately, all those places went out of business, but yeah, that was an interesting time.
To be a part of something that is so multicultural in such a major way. People do tend to think of Muslims as a bit of a mono group like I did. And when you meet Muslims, you do realize that, these ones are kind of, these ones practice like this. And, and being able to meet brothers from so many different parts of the world that all just treat each other like family.
When this says 35, I'm going to stop wherever we are
even
in the
before I came to the masjid,
conversation.
I was talking to a Muslim once, and he said, "You've joined the biggest family on earth."
Yes.
And until I came into the masjid, I didn't realize how true that is. When we go to Taj, I mean, we always give salam to the brother there. I mean, we go there all the time. And I always say, I wish Muhammad could have been with us, whatever. Yes, how we are. We go anywhere else. At the other night, I was at Brooklyn Brisket. I was with Brother Jamil, and he was like, hey, they had closed, and they just let us in, and we're just in there after the restaurant closed. We got some of the stuff before they threw it out. We're just there talking to them, and it really, the community and the way that it really does, it doesn't just feel like a strong community. It is a family in a literal sense. I mean, you treat every brother and every sister. I mean, you say brother and sister. I mean, that right there, like when you're Catholic, it's like a brother is like, a monk. A sister is a nun. And in Christianity, that's typically, you don't.
That's an unfair distinction, the way that he made that, the way that he said that.
Usually say that.
Christians call each other brother and sister all the time.
Protestants sometimes, but when you say brother, when you say akhi, when you say akhli, brother, sister in Islam, like you mean it. Like you always treat everyone that way. Whenever anyone sees you and they know you're Muslim, they'll give you the salam automatically. Even less religious, like less practicing ones, like always return the salam. Like, you can always talk to them a little bit. Like it's just an incredible feeling. I was standing outside waiting for a ride in my thobe once, and someone just drove by with the window rolled down, so said, Assalamu alaikum, and I just, gave it back like he was waving out the window. But that's literally how it is. I mean,
What's your favorite thing about Allah?
mercy. It's my favorite thing. It's also the hardest thing for me to understand. I think a lot of Muslims, not just reverts, but a lot of them, it's hard for us to understand how Allah can have these standards for us. And even when we don't meet them, we're still Muslim. We're still capable of being forgiven. He still loves us. It's just the strangest. It's hard for me to understand. It's my favorite thing, and it's just the thing I have to remind myself all the time. Because I just, especially more when I was new, less so now, it's starting to really settle in. But when I started, I just felt like I'm just doing this because I'm supposed to. The faith wasn't strongly there yet. I just felt like this is the truth. I know that this is the truth. I know that this is the way that I should live my life. But it didn't, that real full understanding and faith in Allah didn't hit me yet. It started to hit me now. And, it really is more than anything, just, comforting to know that He's there. He knows everything that's going to happen. Everything that you're doing has already been planned, everything, that you need to know, He's already told you. That's the other thing is, giving us revelation. Like we're not expected to figure anything out. I mean, within reason, we take the rulings and we take what we see in the Quran and, we figure out to some extent what it means. But, mostly when you look at the Quran, when you look at, the hadiths and things, the life and narrations of the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, you just see, they tell you everything you need to know. It's really just up to you to listen and do it. And that's probably.
All right. That's it. That's it for tonight. This guy was an interesting guy. I feel bad for that he was lonely, but I do notice a trend on who they're trying to bring in. I mean, anyway, the Mormons around here sent off these beautiful women who they're all like between 22 and 25, and they're always going to. They're riding on their bikes and they go and they talk to guys, and they pair up and then they get them to go to the church, to the Mormon church. And they have the Mormon guys too who are on the bikes, but I have noticed that they have they always have the better looking one up front talking and the slightly not as good looking one in the back kind of nodding. You see it a lot because there's a temple here, so they have strategies too. Okay, all right. That's it for tonight. Was this productive? I don't know. I'm very tired. I had a very long day at work. I'm going to have a very long day at work tomorrow. Peace, like, subscribe. Check out my Patreon. Yada, yada, yada. Have a great night, guys. Let's go to a different song. Let's play something different. What are we gonna play? What's this gonna be? What's it gonna be, guys? What's it gonna be?
I don't get what I want, I get what I need. Every single day I'm heading off to my dream, and I get everything that I damn well please. I don't give a damn if you all listening to me, cause I run it. I'm the only one that really want it, I'm the only one that's really on it. I'm just being honest, I'm just doing everything I promise, cause I want it bad enough that I'ma make it as an artist. And I know I'm not the smartest, and I know I'm not the largest, but I promise you that I'ma be the one that worked the hardest. Cause I promise you that I'm just getting started, and I promise you that my skills are getting sharper. So I'ma get charted, can't be guarded. Nah, I'm the one to get retarded. Get the party started, yeah, get the party started. Yeah, so let me get up on it, yeah. Bitch, you got me fucked up, I don't know what's up. Pour that shit in my cup, we bout to turn up. Crank this shit up so loud, sounds like we're sold out. In front of a whole crowd, we lose control now. Y'all take this shit too personally, everybody got a different version of me. Everybody gotta be learning from me, everybody wanna be working with me. And I feel like there's uncertainty and urgency to find out what you wanna be.